Hello, everybody. Hey, everyone. Welcome to the Cackle. And this is Entry Point's weekly interview series where we highlight small businesses and startups and people that are making an impact on our communities. So today we're talking about the state support of entrepreneurs and small businesses. And joining us is Josh Hundt, who is the Executive Vice President and Chief Business Development Officer. This is a long title at Michigan Economic Development Corporation. I'm like, that's how you know it's important. There's like many words in it. So I'll give you like a tiny bit of background, but then I'll have you explain. So you have worked at MEDC for legit probably longer than everyone there. I was looking at your LinkedIn and I was like, where did he work before? Oh, he's worked there a long time. So you know all the things about the inner workings of the MEDC, I think, over.
I even worked there when you worked there, Emily. So
I know. You were there when everyone was there. I was like, were you there? When you were there, who was the CEO when you first started?
Jim Abolito was the CEO in 2006 when I started there. So I've been through a lot of the time at the MEDC and have seen the Great Recession and now this, and a lot of ups and downs along the way. But Michigan stays home no matter what.
Yeah, that's so good. I like it. Yeah, that was so good. I think so. It's kind of, we have like a broader Midwest audience, so I think it'll be good to like hear your perspective just on like us as a person that works at the state level, like what things are like that you guys consider. And because it's a lot of like, I know when I worked there, it was like, you don't even realize like how many different constituents that like the organization serves and is trying to think about and process. So that'll be good to get a little bit, but if you can give like a tiny bit of background on like what MEDC is.
Yeah, absolutely. So the MEDC is the state's agency that works to support businesses, communities, and entrepreneurs. And entrepreneurs are a major focus for us, as well as those customers. We also work to market the state, both for tourism and business as well, under the Pure Michigan campaign, which probably a lot of people around the Midwest and across the country are aware of. And so we work every day basically working to bring more investment, more good and pathway jobs to Michigan and to build thriving communities where a talented workforce wants to live.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I love the Pure Michigan commercials too. Like Tim Allen, I grew up on Home Improvement, so I'm always like, yes, Tim Allen.
It always takes you back to that. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So what is MEDC's strategy around supporting startups and small businesses? So we kind of are like startups being like the tech companies and small businesses being like Main Street companies.
Yeah, and we absolutely see the importance of tech startups as well as the Main Street businesses as well as being critically important to our communities and then growing the overall ecosystem in the state. For tech startups, we've had for about 20 years now an entrepreneurship and innovation program that is solely dedicated to supporting tech startups. And we have 6 focus areas as an organization, and cultivating an entrepreneurial ecosystem is one of those 6 focus areas. And I think it's, absolutely way up there near the top because of what entrepreneurs can do to drive the economy and to help us through challenging situations like we're in right now with the COVID-19 pandemic and then the economic impacts of that. And what we focus on in terms of the tech side of things is we look at 3 things. We look at service providers that we can partner with that can help the tech ecosystem. We look at university relationships and partnerships with really universities all throughout the state through our Smart Zone network, especially partnering with those in the University Research Corridor of University of Michigan, Michigan State, and Wayne State. And then potentially most importantly, we focus on bringing more capital into the market. We know that we can have all the great services, we can have the university connections, but if we aren't getting capital into the market for our startup ecosystem, we can't help it thrive. And so we have initiatives such as our first capital fund, which is about exactly what the name sounds like it is. It's there to provide some of the first financial resources in there for tech startups after they've exhausted the credit cards and friends and family type of financing. Then pre-seed fund as well that provides access to a little bit later stage, but still pre-venture capital. And we're looking to do everything we can to bring about financial capital into the ecosystem. And then the Main Street businesses are important to us as well, both in terms of commercial corridor type companies and making sure that we're doing things right now, such as helping them be ready for the internet shopping that is so important today, making sure that we have small businesses that make our communities unique and thrive, as you see throughout the state. And those Main Street businesses add so much unique character to the community that's something that we see as a major community development goal, as well as to grow our Main Street commercial corridor businesses to make our communities those that people want to visit and work in.
Yeah, I mean, at Entry Point, we kind of focus mostly on small businesses and startups. And a lot of people are like, oh yeah, like why just like that small thing? And I think like people don't totally realize that, like, I mean, I think 89% of businesses in Michigan specifically have fewer than 25 employees, and the average number of employees at businesses in Michigan is 21. So really, when you think, like, we think of small businesses as less than 25 people. But it is just like, that's like a lot of businesses. And so then when something like this pandemic happens and it's affecting Main Street businesses and affecting small businesses in particular, I think that's like a huge part of the fabric of the community that people don't realize that like has an impact on everyone's day to day. When just when they see like, oh, this coffee shop is going out of business, or this retail store is going out of business, like you'll go into your downtown areas, or even, you know, uptown areas and rural areas, and you'll see that there's these businesses that used to be there for like 50 years that just aren't there anymore. And so it's just like, it's been like such a crapshoot lately.
Yeah, I mean, I think that this pandemic really has highlighted in a lot of ways the importance of small businesses and really what small business means to a community, where, you know, we launched our first program in response to the pandemic called the Michigan Small Business Relief Program, which was designed, provided $20 million in grants and loans, which to us at the MEDC is a large chunk of money. And it was positive in the sense that we were able to help over 3,500 businesses with that. But then at the same time, just showed us how much more still needed to be done, because depending on how you count it, there's somewhere around 150 or so thousand businesses that could have qualified for those grants in the state. And obviously we've done more and more since then, but in some of the first days of it, I would just remember driving down the street, seeing all those coffee shops and small businesses and tech startups just as you drive past them in my house in the Lansing area. And I'm like, I could count 3,000 that need help just right here on this drive. So, you know, it does just show the importance of small business and startups, and also what they mean for jobs in our community as well, where a huge amount of our population work in jobs that are small businesses or tech startups. And obviously that's important to our well-being, across the state as well. So, people sometimes think of small business as a niche type of an operation, but it's really by far the biggest part of our economy. It's almost everything, right?
Yeah, those are all the places. Right. I'm like, oh, we specialize in small businesses, but really it's just everyone.
Right.
GM. But yeah, I like how earlier I was laughing because you said like, and then we deployed $20 million, which is a lot for us. I'm like, that's a lot for everyone. That's like a lot for me.
it's a lot for everyone, I think, until you realize what the need is out there for how many small businesses it is, right? In our mind initially, before we're like, oh, we can help such a huge amount of small businesses with this. And it just was eye-opening to us to remember how much more help needed to be out there. Yeah. Even on that. And it's a huge amount of money. It was great for us to be able to get that into the hands of small businesses. And then we followed up on that with a $100 million program called the Michigan Small Business Restart Program that we utilize CARES Act funding for. That's helping thousands of more small businesses while also developing a lot of tools for the tech ecosystem as well. Overall, the MEDCs helped create 19 new programs since the beginning of the pandemic, and almost all of them have been focused on small businesses, tech startups, or communities. I would say essentially all of them have been, because really we have seen that's what's most important right now, is to help those small businesses and startups and get us onto the road to recovery.
Yeah. You might not know this off the top of your head, but I know with like the $20 million grant program that you guys ran, there's like states, I think quite a few states, certainly within the Midwest, like did programs similar to that. Do you have any sense of like whether Michigan per capita like had, that was more money per capita than other states, or less money, or like how, like, do you have any idea like if that's like a bigger program than other places, or about
yeah, I mean, what we've seen has been that a lot of states have tried different creative things in terms of trying to support small businesses, and have recognized that the need for supporting small businesses throughout this time. We've seen there's been some ranking type things that have shown Michigan in a lot of ways have been in the top 5 states for supporting small business since the pandemic, in terms of both these restart and relief programs, but also programs that we put together for tech startups with groups like Michigan Women Forward that help provide financing to startups that otherwise may not be able to receive the funding, or modifications that we've made to our Business Accelerator Fund to help companies that were producing products or generating ideas around helping in the response to the pandemic, have all been a lot of different ways that we've seen Michigan really lead in terms of the response. And so overall, I think the Michigan response has been, very strong, and has been strong because really the governor has taken a lead to always put the health and safety of the Michiganders first, while also understanding the importance of the economy and how we need to support small businesses and all businesses. So it's been a concerted effort across the board, and something we're going to keep doing to help Michigan lead the recovery.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, question number 3 only. This is all I would always have to go over. I'm like, yeah, we're about halfway. Oh no, okay, I'm in. I'll skip ahead a little bit, but so I guess that leads me sort of, we're in the midst of all of this, but really I think we're like only 6 months into like a 18-month projected thing. So I guess what is MEDC doing to sort of be prepared, or to prepare and be proactive about the sudden shift in the economy, and kind of as this goes on for a while?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, last year we established a new strategic plan that really focused on a mission and a vision of 3 core things, which was resiliency in our economy, equity in our economy, and growth in our economy. And it was interesting because those were really important to us last year at that time. But I think now, looking at it about exactly a year later from when we put that plan in place, all 3 of those things are more important today even than they were at that time. And so we want resiliency, like we talked about with our small businesses and our communities. We want equity to make sure that we're not only seeing growth at the top of the economic, for the larger businesses, or that we're not only seeing growth in certain areas, but that we're seeing it for all people and in all regions of our state. And then we mentioned that growth, we need to be a fast growing state, both in terms of attracting talent here and now regrowing jobs into the economy after the pandemic hit. So those will be our 3 real drivers over the next 18 months, and then really the next 4 years at least under this strategy. And it was a plan we put in place based on bringing this long-term economic prosperity for all Michiganders, and utilizing many different third-party studies, including the work that you did at Entry, or you do at Entry Point, that helps with the tech ecosystems. We'll give a little shout out there to important work that you all did and others did too. This wasn't something that was just created in a vacuum, but we listened to our partners, we listened to the research, and want to make sure that we evolve and recognize our support to lead under these next 18 months and over the 4 years around equity, resiliency, and growth. And we're committed to taking a look, the governor under the governor's leadership, are committed to taking a look at all of our economic programs in terms of what we can do to meet the needs of today and be prepared for the recovery to come.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like that is just, who knows? I was reading this article the other day that was saying how, they were like, yeah, we're actually only 6 months in, and everyone's feeling like we're kind of like nearing the end. And they're like, we're in the first third of this. And that like I don't know if this would actually be true, but it was like every 6 months we'll kind of have this like new phase of having to like shift operations and kind of redirect and get new strategies and things like that. Cause personally, I kind of feel like, okay, we're starting to get it figured out, like this will be fine. Like the kids are doing like all the balls that you're juggling all the time. I'm like, okay, we've got the right ones in the air. The other ones are just smashed somewhere, but like we're doing okay. And then I read that and I was like, oh, what? I'm like, we're gonna have to change everything again.
Yeah, I know how you feel, right? And you mentioned the kids, and we were talking about this before we started. We joke it's like a goat rodeo here, trying to get all of our children around the house, doing their online school in one corner and us working in the other corner. So it's you mentioned juggling balls. That's the term we use for it. But it's it's something where you're right. The challenges that we see today are different than what we saw 6 months ago, and we think in 6 or 12 months again, there'll be other challenges as we continue to see the economy come back, though, and begin to see the curve bending, not as far as we'd like to see it, but getting people to do the important things in terms of wearing masks and doing all the appropriate social distancing so the economy can recover. And so we can, hopefully shorten that 18 months as much as possible will be important for us, both from a business and a healthcare standpoint.
Yeah, definitely. I was like, I hear a little person now.
Yes, there's a 2-year-old right there. Speaking of them.
Hey, okay, I'll ask you the next question, but then let me know if you got anything on the live internet. It's fine. We don't care if you like.
This happens sometimes, I guess, right?
The number of times that my kids have been in their underwear on this show is just like,
well, good. That makes me feel better.
Yeah, they're off screen right now, even as far and above what I've been able to maintain. And I only have 2, and you have 4. So
you just needed a drink of my water, so we're good.
I was going to say, I had 4 kids during a pandemic. I was surprised your house isn't literally burning around you.
Sometimes, not right now.
Yeah. Well, that's good. Continue with the interview questions, and you're like, well, I got a situation. Yeah, I was going to say, though, I do feel like Michigan is the 9th largest state in the country. And I feel like if everyone's talking about pivoting every 6 months and whatever, like I was thinking just before this, is that like that's very difficult for MEDC or like a state organization, large organization to actually do, because a lot of it's tied to the legislature. A lot of it's tied to like things that are like, kind of like written in stone places that you can just do things like, I remember working at MEDC, like you'd be like, oh, this change needs to be made to the website. And it would be like 9 months later, that change is made for you. I'll be like, what? Oh, no, that person doesn't even work there anymore.
Right.
But yeah, so I feel like it's good that you guys are kind of had that strategic plan that like stayed in place, because that hasn't really been the case.
I think that makes a huge difference, obviously, for us and for any organization, having that 5-year plan. And we did factor in, we put that together with our board and the governor's office and so many partners. We factored in knowing at some point over those 5 years, it's almost sure there's going to be a recession. And so how do we take that into account as well. Obviously, nobody could have known what would cause the recession or the challenges that we're facing right now, but it didn't look at that everything was going to be perfect and rosy over those 5 years. It looked at it from a standpoint of, we know we need to follow these principles of being fast growing, resilient, and equitable, use that as a starting point. And then if there's shifts or evolutions that need to take place, we'll stick with our focus areas, we'll stick with our principles around that area and adjust as needed and be ready to do it. And that's where I think it's a testament to the work that everyone's doing to have created 19 programs over the last 6 months or 7 months now at this point. Just shows that we're ready to adjust as needed, but still focused on helping our small businesses, helping our communities, and helping our startups, and marketing the state as a great place to work and live.
Yeah, and I think what I like about economic development a lot, and like the work that MEDC does, is just, I feel like there is a real intentionality about like finding private sector experts to kind of run programs where it's like that's within their expertise. Because I know you mentioned like First Capital Fund and like Investment Right like manages that, and like so I think there's like some states where you see that the like state level tries to do everything for everybody across the entire state, and is like housing all the programs like within the state level entity. And I really like feel like that is kind of like you can't be an expert for every region, and you can't like be an expert at every job. And so like if you're trying to boost the tech sector and you're looking to like provide capital to companies using a like venture capital fund to do that versus like having like a government entity try to manage a program like that, I think is really good. So it's like, I like that you guys seem to have like a good partnership with the private sector to be able to like, that's my economic development opinion.
Yeah, partnerships, whether it's with the private sector or regional partners, are critically important, and we want to make sure that we're listening and partnering, and that's going to be the best way that we do it. You know, it's the saying that economic development is a team sport, and that's how we like to look at it.
Yeah, I feel like I'm like obsessed with invested trade also. I feel like my growing obsession with them. Did you know that they're like they invest in the most minority-led companies and women-led companies out of every venture capital firm in Michigan?
I didn't know that. I probably should, but I didn't. So I'll add that to our talking points about.
Asked me yesterday, and I was like, I don't know. And then I looked, and I was like, oh, they're so good. Okay, so we do an annual report for the Michigan Venture Capital Association, which everyone loves their annual reports. So in the 2020 MVCA annual research report, there has been a 12% increase in the number of venture-backed companies in Michigan over the last 5 years, which has actually waned a little bit. Like 3 years ago, it was like significant. I think it was like 55%. And so it's like over the 5 years, I think we've seen a little bit of a flattening in that. That'll be like, Ara's watching, being like, yeah, tell them. So I feel like this ultimately contributes to hiring additional talent in Michigan. And this kind of gets to your point on resiliency. So as someone who works in economic development at the state level, what do you think the importance is of having a strong tech community to like the state's overall economy?
Well, I think overall the tech economy and the tech startup economy, we believe is critically important here in the state, and that's why we have even been more focused on it under this strategy, I think, than we have been in a long time at the MEDC, and hope to continue to grow that support for the startup ecosystem. In recent years, we fostered a reputation as a growing tech hub where IT and mobility and medical device companies of all sizes can start and grow their business. We also think Michigan is a great state where tech and manufacturing can converge and be leaders in areas like Industry 4.0 and be at the forefront of those new hardware and software technologies as well. And we know that the recovery won't happen from where we're at today overnight, but these high-tech startups and companies like them throughout the state are what are going to be something that are going to help us the most to come out of the challenging ecosystem that we're in today. And so, programs like our Tech Startup Stabilization Fund and our COVID-19 Mobility Solutions Grant and our pre-seed fund and others that I've mentioned before are all critical to help drive that startup ecosystem here and continue to grow Michigan, as a state where we can see companies grow from a new startup and launch a business today to continue to have even more growth in them, and like we've had from successes in the past, where Michigan's one of only 10 states with more than one unicorn startup, with companies like OneStream Software and Rivian and StockX all here. We think boosting the startup ecosystem and the entrepreneurial efforts will continue to just bring more ideas, more talent, and more job opportunities here to the state.
Yeah, we've noticed. We did a couple research pieces earlier this year, which now I'm like, my brain is like fried up. I was like, more for the rest of the year, my brain doesn't work. With COVID-19, the impact that it's had on the tech community and the small business community, we did a lot of research around like exactly what that impact was, and like who's lost a bunch of revenue, what have people done in response, what resources are people accessing because of everything, and what resources aren't people able to access. And so like that one thing that I did find to be like really comforting was that the tech sector does seem to have been like so just intrinsically more prepared for something like this to happen, because a lot of tech companies already use remote workers, already have a website that's good, that they've built, that they know how to maintain, like already done like a lot of the legwork just because of how their business operates, so that when something like this happens, they were like, oh crap, but they weren't just like, so it's like 37% of businesses across like all sectors said they felt completely unprepared for anything. Like they were like, we don't have delivery, we don't have a website, we don't have anything. And so like those businesses like lost, like tons of revenue and tons of lead time at the beginning of the pandemic. And we saw like tech sector businesses, none of them said they felt completely unprepared. And actually quite a few of them, I don't want to say half, I can't remember exactly what percentage it is, but like that quite a few of them actually have made money during this time, that their revenues have increased during this time because of like doubling down on a lot of this tech enabled stuff that they're working on. And so we were like, so I just feel like that in itself is like so helpful, because okay, well, at least, like the small businesses, retail and restaurants and all that are like having a really hard time, understandably so, because they're not able to do some of the things that they need to do to make money. But then at least the tech sector is like, okay, so it's not like the entire state is like,
yeah, that just shows the importance of that preparedness and how, the different challenges and different needs that everybody's kind of facing and dealing with on it. And I think that's something, we wanted to focus on, is to help, help other businesses have that opportunity to, move to more online sales and be cyber ready, and some of the things that need to happen to be ready for, what's the world going to look like in a year or so from now? How different are things going to look, and what changes can businesses still make to be ready?
Yeah, e-commerce seems just like so important for some of these like Main Street businesses right now.
Yep.
Where, I mean, obviously it's important because it is. I would say like it's just like what you like before. There were, I know, like I've had conversations with quite a few people around Angela Barbash at Revalue, for instance, that talks about e-commerce for a long time now. She's kind of talked about small businesses needing to be like more well-versed when it comes to e-commerce, and like getting on, having a website and all of those things put in place for them. So let's, anyway, I can go on and it is. So, okay, we'll ask the last two questions and then I'll wrap up real quick. What do you think the overall economy in Michigan will weather, or how do you think the overall economy in Michigan will weather the next 12 months?
Well, I think that's a great question. And, like we talked about really throughout this is over the last few months, we've been very focused on our small businesses, entrepreneurs, communities, and workforce across the state. And that's been able really for us to help lead in terms of responding to the crisis at hand while creating a runway for an economic recovery to come by being focused on those customers and by being focused on that equity and resilience that's so important. And so, under the governor's leadership, our state has been able to re-engage the economy safely, which we think has been obviously the right decision, both from a health standpoint, but also from an economic standpoint about being very intentional to do things like telling people that masking up not only helps from a health standpoint, but helps our businesses remain and get open and stay open. And that's helped us begin to revitalize our hospitality industries, our restaurants, others, and visitors beginning to feel safer as well, and are all positive signs about both the tourism economy, but also our small businesses and tech startups. And so what we want to do is really lean into our history and our strength around innovation and being designers and builders, and think that that innovative spirit that we have in Michigan, where we can see tech and manufacturing and Main Street businesses all grow, will help us lead to a strong and safe recovery and making sure that we have both of those items. And while the recovery won't happen overnight, and like we talked about, it's this 18 months or whatever the time frame is, we're confident that thanks to the proactive steps that we've been able to take and that the governor has taken and that our partners have taken, that Michigan can help be one of the leading states in the recovery as we really see the strength of our manufacturing and our startup and small business sectors continue to shine and grow and show what can be done here in Michigan.
Yeah, perfect. I like that. I like that. You're good.
Well, good.
Like, you run for something. I like that. Okay, I have one easy last question. What is your favorite Michigan destination for a long weekend?
Ooh, so you say that's easy, but there's so many good choices. That almost makes it hard.
You should have something. My God.
No, I mean, there are a lot of great choices, and that's what makes Michigan so great. But for me, I went to college over in Holland, Michigan, and that's always my go-to is to go back there, and you get the balance. I get to see some friends that still live over there. We get to go to the beaches. They got a beautiful downtown and trails and everything else you can need. So my go-to is to go over to the Holland area and get the combination of some of the best sunsets in the world, and also get the great town and get to stop at New Holland Brewery while I'm over there as well. So it's that would be my vote, but there's a lot of great choices.
Yeah, awesome. I love that. Yeah, I love Holland. So perfect. Well, yay. Thanks so much for joining us. And
Thank you.
Yeah, and have a good rest of your week and try to stay sane as we move through the pandemic.
You do the same. It was great to join you. Thank you so much.
Cool. Okay, I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thanks a lot.